Rosemary, in 2021, you won the Local Hero Australian of the Year. What was that like to win that?
Wow, I didn't expect to win 2021 Australian Local Hero, but when they announced my name, I was just imagining in my head all things were going on around my and I'm honored to have it because the other people are so powerful. They have done a lot of things, but I was happy to receive it. But at that moment, I didn't even know what it means. But when I received it and I gave my speech and I'm coming back to my seat, everything is going around my head. And when I sat down, I said a small prayer, and I said, there are two things I did. The first one was a prayer, and the prayer was, God, use these awards for your name to be known. Let people not see me, but let them see you in this award. Then my second thing I thought, that was not a prayer. My mom is blind now, and I said, my mom is sad she can't see my award. And I don't even think she can understand what it is, because if she sees, she can maybe understand. But at that moment, I felt very teary.
Yeah. You just said about saying a prayer as you sat down. So how did Christian faith become a part of your life?
I was the first person to go to church in my family, and my father had 2 wives, and we were 16 children. And it's my cousin who is like my surrogate brother, because my mom and dad brought him up. His wife, when he married, the wife was staying with us because he was still in college, and he was going to the Catholic church, and I started going with her because she became my best friend. And through that, that's how I became a Catholic. Then my mom, when my dad died, she joined the Catholic church, and half of my family, they go to Presbyterian church, and half of my family goes to Catholic. But we all celebrate each other's churches.
In your time in Kenya, you actually had a situation of domestic violence. That must have been really difficult for you.
I had a very bad domestic violence, but I didn't know it was domestic violence until I came here and started working with the police. And when they said emotional abuse, psychological abuse, I could see one by one all the abuse I went through. Can you imagine somebody telling you, why are you laughing? Or why are you sleeping so much? Or why I don't want anybody to come and visit you. Can you imagine people not coming to visit me and how I love people? So through this, I really went through bad, but I didn't know it was domestic violence. And I didn't leave until he kicked me out. Right. I could have been there. So when I came out, I always say it's God who saw my heart and saved me from that to be independent.
Why come to Australia, and how did you come to Australia?
I came to Australia in 1999, and I was running away from the tribal crashes in my town, especially in Eldoret, which was very bad. And I was just running, and I came to the farthest place in the world, and where is farthest apart from Australia? That's how I found myself here. And I always thank God. One thing I used to pray, and I want to say this because faith in me is very strong. I used to pray, God, when I decided I want to go out to another country, I used to say, God, choose for me. You know me. Choose for me the country which I'll fit in. And living in Australia, that's exactly what God gives me. And that shows me whatever you ask God, he gives it to you.
Yeah. What was it like when you first arrived? What was it like landing and arriving in Australia?
When we were coming, I remember our plane, for some reason, it was supposed to stop only 2 places. It stopped 5 times. So when I arrived, it was 9 p.m. And my plan was, when I will go to a taxi and ask taxi to take me to the cheapest motel. And then from there, then the following day, it will be daytime, and it will be me and that time. And I knew something will happen. And still, that is my faith. I knew I didn't have any fear that I will be able to live in this country. And I knew I will not have any issues. And I'm telling you, I had never had any issues, even the first day I arrived in this country.
What help did you get?
When I was standing, I have come out with my luggages, and in these luggages, I had some gifts, because I knew I'm going to make friends. So I bought $50, because I had $300 and $50. I bought some gifts, so in my pocket, I had $250. So when I'm standing there, I'm looking for bearing. so that I can see where people are going and I'll know where the taxis are that side. Because that was my second time to enter a plane. I never used, so I'm just like bombarded. But when I was standing there, I saw this Ethiopian lady. I call her my Aussie mom. Her name is Meskerem. And I just went and I said, 2 minutes, I told her, oh, my problem, you take me or you leave me. And for sure, she took me in.
So you had $350 to your name?
$300, but $50 I bought gifts.
Yeah.
So I had $250 in my pocket.
That's remarkable, isn't it? What did you then go on to do?
So when I came to Carlton, my friend gave me everything, food, accommodation, and she used to take me around. Me, I'm thinking my children have left my children home. I have to pay their fees. So my mind is, how do I get a job? And I had no idea even about refugees. I didn't know about everything. So I used to ask people. I ran from my country and my children are at home and blah, blah, blah. And through that, I knew about and I put asylum seekers and I was looking for a church. She didn't even know where the church was. So every day I would go a bit, then another bit until I saw a sign of a church. And I started going to that church and I told the priest there, I'm looking for a place to stay. And for sure, he sent me to Lewisham, and they did an interview for me. There's a center there for Venice, and they gave me a place in Randwick, and I moved to Randwick.
Wow.
Yes.
How did you now have an ongoing work with other people who are immigrating to Australia. Yes. How did that work start?
For me, I hate self-pity. I don't like have that feeling. So I saw, and I'm going to church. So I saw in the church, in the pamphlet, they were looking for people to go and volunteer in the nursing home, visiting lonely people. And I just laughed and I said, what a good way, a lonely person going to visit another lonely person. And I started volunteering in the Little Sisters of the Poor in Randwick. And I volunteered in that for 3 years. Yep. And I left that because they were dying. When the third one died, I told my coordinator, can you get me somebody who is not dying? And she just said, Rosemary, we give you the one, everyone here is dying, but we give you the one going because you make them happy. They die when they are happy. And I said, I think I have done my time because they become like my relatives now. Yeah. Then they started affecting me and I stopped that. I started now looking for the Africans. And at that time, there were no Africans. So I started asking everyone, where are the Africans? I want to get in contact with, especially Randwick. There were only 2 Africans, one South African and the other one was Zambian. And I met them, at the bus stop. So that's how then eventually I got connected with the Africans and I was elected the women representative. And that's when I started now volunteering with the women. So it took me 6 years to get my visa, my PR. And to get the PR, I had to go out of the country. So when I came back, I had lost my job. And thank God I lost that job because that's how I ended up working with the police. Yeah. And I got this job because I used to volunteer. That time is when a lot of the Sudanese were coming, a lot of Sierra Leoneans, and a lot of Liberians. So that is the time, they were looking for somebody to work with them. And that's how I got the job.
What were you doing as you worked with the New South Wales Police?
My role with the New South Wales Police and my title is Multicultural Community Liaison Officer. And my role is to connect the community. And the community is the migrants, the refugees, and the asylum seekers. You know where we come from, all of us. We wear the blue uniform. And the police wants them not to fear them, to build the trust. I am the bridger that bridge the police and the community. I go out there and see where the community is living and what are their issues. I take the police to celebrate their national days, for example, the Deepavali, the Chinese New Year. We have dinners, iftar dinners with the Muslim when they are fasting. And we go for many Christmas parties. And through police coming and engaging with the community, that's when we break all those barriers.